above all, you want to reverse the privatisations in lots of industry, rail, mail,
We've had this
water,
discussion before.
energy.
Yeah.
Exactly. And in the past, you've said it's not going to cost any money because it's going to pay back. But can I ask you, first of all, do you accept that you would have to purchase these utilities at their asset value at the moment?
The value will be determined by Parliament. I can't tell you at the moment how Parliament will determine that. There'll be a range of options put forward, and Parliament will decide. And that's using existing legislation. That's traditional way of doing it.
But I mean, if Parliament decides to cut this dramatically from the asset value, then we're going to be in a position where pension funds are going to be hit, investors are going to be hit.
Of course, we would never.
So it's got to be quite close to the actual asset value.
Yes, but remember what we're doing is whatever we purchase will be a value that comes onto our asset book. So it'll be neutral. These are profitable operations.
But you still have to buy them.
Yes, they're profitable operations. And the profit we will use to pay for some of the borrowing that we'll need to do, this bonds for shares scheme that we'll do. But in addition to that, we'll use it for investment too. Because what we're doing, let me give you water as an example. We've had this discussion before. We're cutting out the dividend payments to the speculators. 18 billion in water paid out in dividends. Do you know some of those companies were borrowing to pay dividends rather than to invest? That will happen. We will not be ripped off anymore.
We've had this conversation before. We haven't yet got a figure on what it's going to cost. I've got a few examples here, few examples of the current asset values of things that you would like to take into public ownership. So Royal Mail there, £3.5 billion. Not a lot of money, actually, to bring the Royal Mail back into private ownership. Centrica, twice that. Severn Trent Water, just one of the water companies, 4.3.
But you're working on the basis that this is a cost. When we purchase something, let me just finish. When we purchase something, it comes onto our books. It's neutral. That becomes an asset that we own. Then, instead of the profits going into shareholders' pockets, we will use those profits to invest, reduce bills, and if we have to borrow at all, issue bonds for shares, that will cover the cost of those.
But we are going to have, you are going to have to borrow to do this. You're going to have to borrow to do this.
But that borrowing then is covered.
And we're going to have to pay for that borrowing.
Yeah, but that borrowing is covered by the profits from those individual companies, and those profits will cover the borrowings but also help us reduce costs and allow us to invest as well. This is not rocket science. This is literally traditional business methods.
But you're going to make less money out of these companies because you think they're ripping people off, so you're going to kind of pay their workers better, and you're going to remove the shareholder.
We're not going to stop us being ripped off by dividends being paid out to speculators. I repeat to you, look at the water industry, 18 billion paid out to speculators.
But a lot of these so-called speculators are ordinary British people investing in their pensions.
And what we'll do with the pension funds as well is make sure they get a decent rate of return which is stable for the long-term future. I'm meeting the pension funds now. That's what they want. They want a stable return based upon long-term patient investment within that sector, and that's what we'll give them. Security.
The Centre for Policy Studies, not perhaps the most politically neutral body, but nonetheless, they say it'll cost £143 billion to do this.
Yeah. Wasn't that paid for by the water industry itself?
176 billion.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
I think some of these figures, some of these studies have been paid for by the industries themselves, and I have to have an element of scepticism. Also, some of them by the most right-wing think tanks that have existed in our country.
So, if this is a ludicrous figure, as you clearly think, what is the real figure?
Well, that will be determined by Parliament. Parliament will determine the price.
Don't people have to have some sense of what this is going to cost?
Well, when Parliament determines that, that will determine the price. But let me reassure them, it will not cost them anything, because what we'll be doing is taking an asset, it will give us an income, we'll cover the costs of purchase and invest properly and reduce costs.